What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to the channel. It is day 2 of the Dungeon Defenders Awakened free weekend, and today I wanted to kind of go over some advanced tips, mainly talking about runes. Runes you will no doubt have found as you are playing through. They are quite abundant. Runes drop per act, and there's some runes that are a little better than others right at the beginning of the game. However, runes themselves definitely make a game-changing experience in late game once you get the higher quality runes. But starting off, we're going to take a look at the Apprentice. One of the runes that you no doubt will collect very quickly is the Pulsator rune. When the lightning tower fires off, it also deals 100% of tower damage to all enemies within range, with less damage the further away they are from the tower starting after halfway. This is a rune with no downside at all. It's quite powerful and really a game-changing addition if you like the lightning towers. Now, Deadly Striker towers are generally a little bit better later in game once you get a little bit more stat and get their attack rate going quicker. However, it's free damage with no downside on the Explosive Striker rune as well. Even at rank 1, you're getting a 25% tower damage boost from the explosion that goes off every 7 seconds. So every 7 seconds, you're going to be doing 25% more tower damage in an AoE radius around the target. This is another one that's super common. It's an Act 1 rune. Both of these runes can be found anywhere in Act 1. Where it shows the favored map, that is only referring to the victory chest. However, any rune that has a favored map in an act also drops anywhere in that act on the ground. So you will no doubt see lots of Explosive Strikers and Pulsator runes, and they are both worth taking a look at. Now, depending on how far you play through the campaign, this Elemental Discharge rune is extremely powerful if you're using walls. It gives your walls basically an AoE explosion that does a ton of damage based off of their max health. So absolutely incredibly useful blockade rune if you're using any sort of walls. Now moving on over to the Huntress. The Huntress has got a couple of straight up freebies. One of them is Shell Shocked. This one is going to drop in Act 2. Enemies are slowed and deal reduced damage. Nothing better than that. So if you are using walls particularly, you can put this explosive trap right by your wall. It's going to slow the enemies, and it's going to make them do reduced damage. Shell Shocked is basically a freebie, and well worth jumping into right away. So Shell Shocked for the win. Now, additionally, we've got Blazing Fire and Extra Spiky. Now, both of these, Blazing Fire is in Act 3, Extra Spiky is in Act 3 as well. Both of these are incredibly powerful runes. However, the towers or defenses themselves do get a little bit more powerful as you get a little bit more stats. So, right at the beginning of the game, these are not as useful. However, they are incredibly useful once you start building a little bit of statistics. And then the EV. This is the big enchilada, y'all, and it is absolutely the game changer, and that is the Overdrive Rune. I mentioned in yesterday's tips and tricks video how important a buff beam can be, and the Overdrive Rune makes it even more so. So, for example, what the Overdrive Rune, first off, what the Overdrive Rune does is gives towers 50% more damage. This effect is reduced by 13% for each additional defense the Overclock Beam buffs. Now, with this in mind, we are going to want to stack as few towers as possible on a buff beam to get a maximum effect. And then additionally, we're not going to want to go over 4. So taking a look at it, now remember this is with a tier 1 rune, so these you're going to just find. This one drops in Act 2, you're going to see them no doubt. Get it right away and change how you use your buff beams. Now, the Overclock Beam themselves, you see by default with the stats that I have, it's doing 29.48% boosted defense damage. We take a look, that is, I've got everything dumped into power to get as much as I can out of those buff beams, but we're getting 29.48%. Now, say we threw down one tower on that. So just one tower on a buff beam. And we now look, that buff beam is now giving a 79.48% boost in defense damage. So absolutely a huge boost in damage. If we continue to add towers, that number is going to go down for more towers we put on it, of course. With 2 defenses, we're at 66%. With 3 defenses, we're now down to 53%. And then with 4 defenses, we are now down to 40%. Now remember, we started off at 29%. So we're still getting a benefit out of the rune with 4 defenses on there. However, if we place a 5th, we're going to look and see we have now getting less boost damage than a default buff beam. So always go less than 4 defenses. Additionally, remember, it only counts damaging defenses. So say you've got an Ensnare Aura on your buff beam and an Electric Aura on the buff beam. The Electric Aura is the only one doing damage, so when we look at the buff beam, we're at that 79.48%, as the Ensnare Aura is not counting. Additionally, if you threw, like, say, a Gas Trap down, a Gas Trap is also not going to count towards that total, so it's only damaging defenses. This particular rune will change your game. It makes things very, very powerful. One way, just right out of the bat, the way that this rune, an example of this rune's power, remember on our Lightning Aura rune, let me make sure I have it equipped. I do not. On our Lightning Aura rune, the Pulsator, we are getting that bonus damage anytime that we lay it down. Let's go over here that we have multiple targets. So we see the explosion hit both of those dummies for 1,000 as it's 100% damage. Now, however, let's say we take that buff beam and throw it on there with the Overdrive Rune. We see we more than doubled our total damage output, 2,200, and remember that blast is an AoE blast that hits everything. So once you're leveled up high enough to get everything upgraded, you see the amount of damage boosted out of it is just considerable, 5,300. So very, very nice boost in damage there. So that is just a few helpful hints on runes. Making our way through, though, we do want to look at a couple of others. The Monk. Ensnare Auras are a large part of the game. This one is just straight free, the Sluggish Aura. Ensnare Aura reduces enemy damage by 5% while ensnared. Any enemies in your Snare Aura are going to have 100% uptime on the slow, so you're reducing enemy damage by 5%. It's kind of a no-brainer aura. Now, Electric Auras gain a little bit more benefit, once again, the higher the stat that you're using. However, this is another one that is just an extremely powerful addition. Every 5 seconds, the Electric Aura deals 100% to a single enemy within range. So a single bonus shot of extra damage every 5 seconds to an enemy. So just another no-brainer to use. Now, on the Warden, we're taking a look at the Warden. We do have some powerful runes on the Warden. However, there's one that you're going to get super early game, right in Act 1, and it really stands out, and that is Entangling Roots. It applies a 5% slow and 10% tower damage dot to enemies within range. Now, if you're building with the Warden, you can use your root as a wall. You see the range of it is not fantastic, so it would only apply that slow to anything that gets up close. However, if you upgrade it, you're going to get really nice range value out of your root. This is going to apply a slow and an AoE dot to everything in the area. And then last but not least, we have the Summoner. Now, the Summoner is without question one of the MVPs. There's no doubt. Early game, if you're using Ogres, a Kobold Launcher is just beast. It just blasts things. Additionally, Spider's Poison is super, super powerful. Spider's Poison, of course, is going to drop in Act number 2, and the Kobold Launcher will drop in Act 2 as well. The Kobold Launcher gives an ogre the ability to throw an explosive kobold that just wrecks it. So get those out there. That is a very hard-hitting attack. If you want to use ogres in your build, this rune is a no-brainer. Get it on there, get those kobolds flying, and let your ogres have a little fun. Now, additionally, the real MVP of the summoner is the spider. I'm sure most of you all have discovered this already. Spiders have a really wonky attack arc with that high lob. Additionally, if their target dies, the projectile just will fly randomly up in the air. So it may give you the impression that your spiders are not doing very much. However, spiders are absolutely incredible. They just wreck things. Summons a crystalline spider to fight for you, flings webs at nearby enemies, slowing their movement and doubling any damage they receive. So it's putting a slow on enemies, but it's also debuffing the enemies where they take double damage. So absolutely beast of a defense in the spider. Now the spider has a lovely little spider's poison rune. 25% chance to be poisoned and get a damage over time dot that deals 10% of the damage per second. So you're getting an additional 10% damage. You see it going off there. The uptime on it is basically 100%. If it's hitting enemies, it's going to be adding in that poison dot, and it's 10% of your main damage hit. So 100% use spiders. Spiders for the win. They are the GOAT. There's just no doubt about it. And then last but not least, there's only one tip we wanted to go on to cover the rest of your free play weekend in Dungeon Defenders Awakened, and that is tower targeting. So a lot of people will ask, oh, well, my build is holding up, but it's not doing very well against flyers. Well, you can go into your tower, your spellbook. Let's go down to, say, that spider, and we can change the target priority. Special means that it's attacking the special enemies first, meaning Darkin, Jinn, things, the nightmare enemies that get introduced to the game, Nightmare and later. However, you've got air as one of the targeting choices. It's actually the very first one to the left. So yeah, air targeting. This will make your defenses prioritize the air enemies prior to switching over to ground mobs. So air targeting is super huge. Debatably one of the best default main DPS targeting settings that you can put on any defense, and something that you're going to want to take advantage of. So take a look at your targeting. Now, on that same note, you've got things like fodder targeting, where fodder targeting is going to target the little guys first. Now, you want to have a good mix of both. For example, my lightning towers are on fodder targeting, and the reason being is if you've got your target set to, say, hit strong enemies, it's going to go after the strongest enemies in the lane, meaning as long as there's stronger enemies in the lane, a little goblin can just roll right on up to your core and start smacking it. So you do want a mix of both tower targeting types in your build. Make sure you have special or air, and make sure you have fodder targeting as well. But that will do it for now. Hopefully everyone is enjoying their Dungeon Defenders Awakened free weekend. Make sure to join me over on Twitch at 1 p.m. Pacific time, and you'll be able to unlock a special Twitch drop today just for watching the stream for an hour. But that will do it for now. Thanks a ton, and I will see ya next time around. Take it easy.